just have a quick review of what we did in our last class. This is the verse division in the second chapter, and we are going to finish the last subsection, which is Stita Prajna, qualities of the liberated soul. Also, if everybody can turn on their videos, not everybody has their videos on, kindly please do turn on your videos. So we did verse number 254, in which Arjun asked a question. Stita prajnasya ka bhasha samadhistasya keshava stita dhi kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. So he asks 4 questions, and then let's have somebody who knows what these 4 questions are unmute and you can tell us.
Kabasha, he says what Kabasha. And
Bhasha, which is
the general, what are the general symptoms of the Kim Prabhasheta? How does he speak? That is, how does he react when there is a reaction from the outside, good or bad? Kim Asita, how does he sit? So what is his mentality when he restrains his senses? And fourth is Vrajeta Kim, how does he walk? How he engages his senses?
Background noise. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, teacher. All right, so Krishna answers. This is echoing. All right, so Krishna answers about the general symptoms in 2.55. He says, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of sense desires which arise from mental concoction, and when his mind finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. So, Kabhasha, what are the general symptoms of a Stita Prajna? Krishna says the self-realized soul gives up all varieties of sense desires which arise from mental concoction. Thus, purified in mind, one finds satisfaction within. 56 and 57, how does he speak? So let's come to the answer quickly. So Krishna answers, he's not disturbed in mind in suffering or elated in happiness. He's free from attachment, fear, and anger. So this is his internal reaction. How does he feel internally, emotionally? How does he react when there is stimuli from outside? And then he neither praises good nor despises evils. And how does he speak? How does he react by speaking in those situations? Then the third question, how does he sit? And in 6 verses, Krishna answers. Let's come to the answer. How does he sit? Krishna says, such a person remains fixed in transcendental consciousness by virtue of his higher taste for service of Krishna. Also, he gives a metaphor how the tortoise withdraws his limbs within when it sees danger outside. Similarly, Sthita Prajna Purush also restrains his senses, bringing them inside. So not physically, not literally, but he goes deeper within his inner consciousness. So that's how he restrains the stimuli from outside. And we did the story of Haridas Thakur. We also saw a small song in a small video, how Haridas Thakur, such a wonderful example one of our acharyas, the Namacharya, how he, when this prostitute came to allure him, he was not disturbed at all. In fact, he made the prostitute a disciple and fully Krishna conscious. So mind controls, the prajna not only controls his mind, but also controls his senses, but also controls the mind and focuses on Krishna. And that is a real cause of control of the senses. Without surrender to Krishna, the senses join the weak mind to the respective sense objects. And we also, a little small example we took of Vishwamitra Muni, how he was trying to control his senses, but because of without this full surrender to Krishna, it was not possible. And he, because of weak mind, it joined the respective sense objects and wanting to enjoy in this world. So we begin from the 62nd verse today. And here Krishna starts to talk about how does he walk. So Krishna, in 2.60, Krishna spoke of the senses taking away the mind by force to the sense objects. 62-63 describes the effects from that uncontrolled mind. So let's look at the verse. Beautiful. This is 2 verses where Krishna describes how there's a fall down. If these senses are not controlled and we do not surrender to Krishna, ultimately there is a fall down, and it's a 8-stage fall down. And let's look at the verse. We'll do both the verses together, 62-63, and then we'll look at the meaning. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangaseshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho vijayate. Somebody can unmute and read the translation, please.
While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mataji. So in 63rd verse, recited. Krodhat bhavati sammoha, so sammohat smriti vipramaha, smriti bhamshat buddhi nasho, buddhi nashat pranashyati. Let's have somebody read the translation.
From anger.
From anger, delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool.
So Krishna is talking about how desires in this world are the cause of our fall down. So our desire for happiness is not wrong, but the direction in which we seek those desires, that needs to be corrected. So it's a step-by-step fall down by Ramanujacharya, 62-63, contemplation. First, we think about for example, we'll take a simple example of an advertisement where there is a new delectable chocolate that they are trying to advertise and show, chocolate or even cereal for kids. Morning cereal, what they put in milk and they eat. So it's a new cereal and the child is seeing that ad again and again and again. So by first giving attention and then contemplation, thinking about it. Contemplation on sense objects is unavoidable. Why? Because on account of impressions of sins from time immemorial. Prabhupada says one not Krishna conscious, in Krishna consciousness, subjected to material desires. Everyone in material world, including Brahma and Shiva, are subject to the influence of sense objects. So there's an example given here. But because of that contemplation on that sense object, attachment develops, increases fully in a man who thinks about the sense objects. Then desire, further stage of attachment. Not possible for a man to stay without experiencing the sense objects because of contemplating about it again and again, about that serial on TV, and then wanting that attachment develops. I really want to taste this. Then the desire comes that I cannot live without it. Please, can I have it? And then anger, when the object is not nearby, or parents say, no, too much sugar, nothing doing, we're not getting it. So there's anger. And even if that cereal, the parents bring, it doesn't bring that much satisfaction. It's not that good. So again, there is some frustration there. Or even if that thing is brought, somebody else take it. Brother or sister comes and takes the whole box, like that. So whatever we get in this world, it does bring about frustration. The sense objects bring about frustration. Then delusion, loss of discrimination, what to do and what not to do. Not possessing that discrimination, one does anything and everything. Bewilderment regarding injunctions of scriptures and guru. So even if we've heard that this thing is not okay, when the desires are so strong, we really need it, we forget. There's delusion, that loss of discrimination comes, what is right, what is wrong. Even if the knowledge is right, one will be deluded and remember it incorrectly. So the mind tries to trick. Yes, it was said, but this is the injunction. The mind will create and bring delusion. Then failure of memory. Memory means the impressions of the earlier efforts of sense control. That gets lost. Non-awareness of one's eternal connection to the omnipresent soul. Then there is buddhi nasha. The intelligence is completely lost. Destruction of the determination necessary for knowledge of Atma. He becomes like a tree, stupefaction of his intelligence. Then there is sinking in the ocean of material enjoyment and continuing in this samsara. And he becomes spiritually dead. Dead here means spiritually, one goes to the degraded hellish planets. So from the movement from desire to destruction can be illustrated as under. So there is attachment, desire, anger, delusion, loss of memory, loss of reason, and utter ruin. It happened to Ravana when he was hearing about the beauty of Sita from Shrupanaka. Attachment developed because he was contemplating on her beauty. Then there was a desire, then there was anger, because although even if he kidnapped her, she wasn't succumbing, she wasn't agreeing to his proposition of marrying him. Then there was delusion. People kept telling him everybody, even his wife, his brother, they told him, give back Sita. But because of loss of memory, what is right, what is wrong, also he was also he had read all the Vedas and he was really in scriptures. He was kind of mahir. He was really learned, but there was loss of reason. Then there was utter ruin. He was killed. So this is the first stage of contemplation, is the thinking stage. Look at that. That looks really nice. So contemplating the objects of the senses. Then there is attraction. One develops attachment for them. It's the feeling stage. That looks really good. Now I want it. Which leads to lust, willing and doing. I want it. Intense longing comes, which is obsession. Then unsatisfied lust results in anger. Who can stop me? And there is irritation, frustration. I can do what I want. That is delusion. I don't care. Then bewilderment of memory, nothing else matters, which is oblivion, stupefaction, loss of intelligence. This is best for me. One cannot understand from past experience or others' suggestions, and then one falls down into gross material existence. Okay. Madhuri Mataji, if you can mute yourself. All right, so this is Ravana's obsession in pictures. Let's look at, we're not going to look at the video. I'm going to keep going. So Marich, first was Marich who stopped him. He said, don't, because he was his uncle. He told him, can you become a golden deer and try to entice, Sita, and so that Ram goes away to catch you, and then I can go kidnap. So Marich told him, don't do this. I have experience and it is not the right thing to do. You will be killed. And then Ravana said, either I will kill you if you don't agree, or you get killed by Ram. when you become the deer. So he agrees to get killed by Ram and get liberated. Jatayu, he tried to stop and he tried to bring some sense into Ravana. But Ravan did not agree, or he didn't listen. Vibhishan also, his own brother. And then Hanuman, he also told Ravana, give back Sita, this is not the right thing, but he did not listen. Angad also came as a peacemaker and he did not agree. His own wife, Mandodari, also, you have so many beautiful wives. Why are you going after somebody else's wife? We can please you. But he did not listen. Then his brother Kumkaran also, when he was woken up and he was told what has happened, he also gave this good suggestion that give back Sita. He didn't listen. And then there was a war where Ravan was killed. All right, so any questions so far? We'll go to the next verse. All right, so 64 to actually in 64, Krishna starts to talk about how does he walk. He's still till 63rd verse, he's still finishing when he was talking about how does he sit, how does he control his senses, and if he's not able to control, then there is a fall down. Now 64th words onwards till 72, end of this chapter, Krishna speaks about Rajeta Kim, how does he walk, how does a self-realized person control his senses while acting in this world, while moving about, and while moving about, how does one engage his senses in a harmonious way. So this is the link for, so far Krishna explained the dangers of accepting sense objects and how a Sthita Prajna controls himself from being distracted by them. Now he says that it is not a fault to accept the sense objects if it is done with controlled senses, without undue attachment to in the mind. So let's get right into it. 64th verse. Ragadvesha vimuktaistu vishayan indrayascharan atma vasher vidheyatma prasadam adhigacchati. Somebody can read the translation, please.
But a person free from all attachment and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. So raga, dvesha, these are the dualities, attachment and aversion. Vimukta is to, by putting them aside, Vishayan Indrayascharan, movement of the senses towards sense objects. Charan is to move. So Atma Visher Vidheyatma is brought under control of the self. And Prasadam Adhigacchati, one obtains complete mercy, prasadam of the Lord. So senses move towards sense objects. It is very natural. We are in this world. We have sense objects. We have senses and there are sense objects around us. So senses move towards sense objects and we get sidetracked and we get entangled. Here Krishna is giving a solution how we can protect ourselves. So by following the scriptures, which are higher values and principles, which is Vidheyatma. Krishna uses the word Vidheyatma. One keeps the mind and bodies and senses under one's control. Atma vasher. Vash mein karna, right? We all know. Vash mein karna, what? Atma ko. Atma ko vash mein karna. Atma can mean body, senses, mind, soul, even super soul. But here, when Krishna is saying Atma vasher, he's meaning your body, senses, and mind. You have to control them. And we don't let the senses go towards the objects. Raga, dvesha, vimuktais, away from aversion and attachment. And what is the payoff if we can do all that? The impure desires subdue and one becomes pure by attaining Krishna's mercy. Prasadam adhigacchati. And gradually Krishna gives full prasadam by giving himself, by giving more and more realizations of himself. So it's a beautiful verse where Krishna just now in 62, 63 gave us how a person can fall down because of attaching themselves too much to sense objects. And now he's giving a solution. Even when the sense objects are around you, how you can control? By internally being detached. That is the best way. And our Guru Maharaj says, how can a person be totally detached in this world? By completely attaching to Krishna, by completely submerging oneself, absorbing oneself in the service of Krishna. And that is the only solution. So I'm saying no to lower things because I want to say yes to something higher. So there is material regulation which gives about spiritual elevation. And this is in the purport. You can read this later. I'm going to keep going. And we see in the Ramayana how Ravana gave into his attachment to sense objects. But versus him, there was Hanuman, who was totally detached from his surroundings, from the sense objects. The time Hanuman leapt over the ocean to look for Sita, you remember what was the first obstacle he faced? Anybody remembers from Ramayana? There was something that came up from the ocean.
Fish.
The Meru
Fish?
The Parvat Mataji?
The Parvat, yes, the golden mountain, Menak
Meru
Parvat,
Parvat.
came up. And it said that your father had helped me long ago. I would like to serve you. You are going on this mission. It's a long journey. So just rest on me. Just stay on me for... I have beautiful caves. You can rest in one of them. I have wonderful fruit and refreshments. And you can just take rest. What did Hanuman say? He wasn't allured by those sense objects. He said, no, I have a mission. There is a purpose, a higher purpose. When there is, and we'll come to that. But he was so much detached from the sense objects that he was focused on his mission to find Sita. So 65th verse, let's keep going. And this is the result of attaining that prasadam. Recite it. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hanir asyopajayate prasanna chetaso yashu buddhi paryavatishtate. Okay, I'm going to request all of you to... Okay, yeah, you can unmute and read the translation. Yes. Ahead.
For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. Bhagavad Gita 2.6.
Thank you, Mataji. So, prasade sarva dukkhanam, by attaining that prasadam, that mercy of the Lord, what happens? Sarva dukkhanam, all of one's distresses, hanir asyopajayate, are destroyed. Prasanna chetaso yashu, in such a satisfied consciousness, prasanna is joyful consciousness, buddhi paritarishyate, one's intelligence is soon well established. So, result of achieving one's Lord's mercy, complete satisfaction of senses and consciousness, threefold miseries exist no longer. When one says threefold miseries, anybody knows the answer? What are the threefold miseries? Adi Devik, Adi Bhotik, Adhyatmik. All of these miseries exist no longer. Intelligence is soon well established, and we'll understand how to, because till the time we have this body, till the time the soul is in this body, there is going to be misery. Even if everything is, comfortable around us, there is the misery of old age, birth, old age, disease, and death. So these miseries are there. How is it that with attaining Krishna's mercy, that prasadam, these miseries exist no longer? We'll understand that. So one is reception. When we hear the words of Krishna, when we read the scriptures, there is reception. We get some knowledge about the higher values in life. Then there is application. We want to apply in our life. When there is application, then the mercy flows. And because of that mercy which is flowing, there is purification that comes. When the purification comes, now there is internalization, realization, and assimilation. More and more one goes deeper because of that purification and because of the mercy flowing. So let's come to what is disturbing our minds in this material world. One is inconvenience. For example, person is driving a car and somebody else hits the car and there are scratches on the car, which is inconvenience. You can fix it, right? But there is some inconvenience, there is some level of disturbance in the mind. But then there is something higher. If there is injury also in that accident, then there is pain and more suffering and there's misery. Now, all kinds of misery are destroyed. One is inconvenience to the extent a person is attached. Here you can see even a small little scratch. I can't even see the scratch when I was, well, yeah, there is a little white scratch there. So attachment determines the extent of our emotions. For someone who is attached, even a scratch on the car seems like a knife has gone through their heart. But if a person is not attached, it's okay, it's just a scratch, right? When there is reception, application, mercy, purification, assimilation, then there is detachment from matter also that comes, and miseries are destroyed. Even the miseries where there is physical pain. We've seen there's so many examples, our own acharyas, where there was so much, physically, there was so much suffering, right? Sanatana Goswami went through this, the whole body was filled with pus, but he was always joyful and happy. Then there is example of, who can give us more examples?
Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj.
Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj going through such painful cancer. His legs were amputated. And still his conscience, he told our Guru Maharaj that in this, I will not want to trade this position that I have right now with anything in this world. Because in that state also, he was super blissful, and because there's internal satisfaction. Nothing disturbs us from outside. So if somebody can read this is the meaning of Rama, Ramante Yogino Anante.
The supreme absolute truth is called Rama because the transcendentalists take pleasure in the unlimited true pleasure of spiritual existence.
When we chant Krishna's names, the Mahamantra that we chant, there is Rama there. So Prabhupada used to say, just chant and be happy. And this is the reason Rama's name, Rama himself, the meaning is always the all enjoyable, the one Supreme Lord who's all enjoying. So when we come in contact with such a person who's always blissful and happy, we also become blissful. He's the one who's the object of our meditation. So the link between 65-66, next verse, what takes place when one lacks that satisfaction in Krishna consciousness? No happiness or peace without connecting with the Supreme. So it's the 66th verse. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya, nacha ayuktasya bhavana, nachava, nachabha, vayata shantir, ashantasya kutastukham. Let's have somebody read the translation.
One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace?
Peace. So, nasti buddhir ayuktasya, one who is not connected. Ayuktasya is detached or disconnected from the Supreme. Na chayuktasya bhavana, with fixed intelligence, is without a steady mind. Na cha bha vayata shantir, without steady mind, there is no shanti, there is no peace. Ashantasya kuta sukham, without peace, how can there be any happiness? So pleasure can be experienced only with a peaceful mind. That's why we have to be peaceful. That's the first thing is detachment from the material objects. Peace has to be there, because if we're always agitated, we'll never be happy. So with a peaceful mind, how? Because we're always running. Let's look at this. There's excessive passion, because of which perpetually one is on the lookout for sensory stimulants. Now I need this. Now I need the stimulant. So that I'm always that passion within needs to be curbed. Chasing after things in this world to make us happy. But because things in this world cannot make it can only bring some satisfaction to the body, but to the soul, it doesn't even touch all these sense objects. So there's no satiation, since nothing material can satisfy the soul. And because of that, there is no peace. And if there is no peace, there is no happiness. Somebody can read this.
When we are anchored within Yukta, we will stay calm, even if externally there is a lot going on. When we are rooted in Krishna,
we will not. I'm sorry. I was making this at 1 in the night. I should have checked it. I'm so sorry. When we are rooted in Krishna, we will not be disturbed. So if you imagine there is a boat and there's a lot, it's on the shore maybe, but there is a lot of, there's lightning and thunder, the waves are crashing towards the shore, and the boat is right there on the, on the shore of the ocean, but it is anchored. All these waves will not move the boat anywhere, right? Nothing will happen. Even if it moves here and there a little bit, it'll stay stationed right there because of the anchor. So similarly, if we are rooted in Krishna, then nothing disturbs us, even when there is so much going on around us. When we are rooted in Krishna, we will not be disturbed by external circumstances. And wonderful example is Prahlad Maharaj. His own father was trying to kill him, but he was totally peaceful, totally satisfied and joyous with his connection to Krishna within. So what keeps us undisturbed is our sadhana, which is so important. Early morning practice of our sadhana, getting up, chanting our rounds with focus and attention, and all the other limbs of doing our bhakti, reading, worshipping Tulsi Maharani, going to the dham, right? All of association, all of these things keep us rooted in Krishna. And then even if we go out in the world and we are facing circumstances which might otherwise bring so much agitation, then we are peaceful and we are calm. So what happens if senses are not regulated? Krishna speaks again, 2.67. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano anuvidhiyate tadasya harati pragnam vayurnavam ivambasi. Somebody can read the translation.
As a boat on the water is swept away by a strong wind, even one of the senses on which the mind focuses can carry away immense intelligence.
As a boat on the water is swept away by strong winds, even one of the senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a mind's intelligence. So indriyanam hi charatam, even one of the roaming senses, right? Charan is to take a step. So, and meaning that there is movement. So indriyanam hi charatam, when the senses are, even if one of the senses is charatam, it's roaming here and there. Yan mano anuvidhiyate, on which the mind now also focuses. There's contemplation. Remember, Krishna spoke about 62, 63, how when person looks at sense objects, then there is attention, contemplation, then attachment develops. Tadasya harati pragnam, can carry away one's intelligence, that contemplation. And those desires that come in, then they can carry away one's intelligence. Vayur navam ivambasi. Krishna is bringing another metaphor, which is just like the Vayu, winds carry away the a boat. Navam is a boat. The strong winds carry, sweeps away the boat. So boat is, if you imagine a boat, it is meant to take us safely from one shore to another shore, right? That is the purpose of the boat. And because of some strong winds, it can go here and there and even lose the direction and go to some other, just change direction and go to reach some other destination because of the strong winds. So boat can be tossed away by force devastatingly by a strong wind and taking away to different direction where we wanted to go, but taking a completely different path. And similarly, intelligence can be swept away devastatingly by forces of passion coming through the senses into the mind, who can tell us what this picture is and how is this person's mind or intelligence deluded. Quickly, in 2 sentences.
Ajamila.
It's an example of Ajamil.
Ajamil and how his intelligence. Go ahead. What happened to Ajamil?
Because
Well,
Well, he actually got attached to the prostitute while he was actually going through the forest, and he saw one prostitute having love with one of his
Wonderful.
lover, and then he actually got attached to the prostitute, and he actually decided to leave his family.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Very wonderfully summarized, Vishal Prabhu. Thank you. So he had some other purpose. He was going to the forest to collect some firewood and flowers, paraphernalia for yajna for his father who had requested. And he was a Brahmin. He was totally focused in his spiritual life. But when he went to the forest, he saw this degraded scene where a prostitute was with this other man, and just seeing that, his mind got so much, that passion came in his mind also. He wanted to now enjoy with that woman. There's nothing else he could, even when he came home, on the way back home, at home, he could think of nothing else except for that woman. So intelligent, he was intelligent in spiritual matters. He had a higher purpose, right? But still, the intelligence can be, Krishna says, it can be swept away in a way that the whole direction of the life changes. So what is the solution? For the boatsman, he can avoid by not sailing, avoiding sailing in stormy weather. When he can look at the forecast, there is a forecast of such a devastating, such devastating winds. There is, so he can avoid, let me not go this day. I'll go another day. But even if he's there in the ocean, going somewhere on the boat, and then the winds come, if they're unavoidable, then he endures. He deals by maneuvering whatever strength or whatever skills he's learned. He tries to maneuver the boat in a way that, he saves his own life. Otherwise, there's destruction, which is inevitable. So for a seeker, first thing we should do is avoid situations where there can be stimuli for the senses. And if they're unavoidable, then we should be able to endure them, avoid contemplating on them. Otherwise, irresistance is inevitable. Deepaji, you have a question. Go ahead.
Yes, Mataji, in this case, what could Ajamila have done?
Not contemplate. Yeah, this is the solution Krishna is giving. So avoid situations. If he knows next time he goes, he knows that this lady comes and sits here and, she tries to enjoying with other men, not take that path, take another path. Now, if it is unavoidable because he didn't know, and because he cannot shut his eyes while walking and he sees this woman, then he should endure, avoid contemplating on them. That is the first step a person can take to avoid destruction. And the most important one. So this is a beautiful verse from the Bhagavatam where how positively the metaphor of boat is used. So let's read this. I'm going to read just in between. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat having the spiritual master as captain and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds impelling it to the right course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize this human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of his own soul. Well, the soul cannot be killed, we all know, but what does it mean when we say killer of the soul? What does it mean?
Of the soul.
The
degradation of the soul.
Deterioration of the soul. The deterioration.
Degradation of the soul, the capacity that we have within this human body to utilize in spiritual culture, that is lost completely, because we're always focused on matter so much. So we lose that opportunity to elevate ourselves spiritually. Yes, wonderful. So we go to the next one, 68th verse. Tasmad is therefore. So therefore, what should one do? Tasmad yasya mahabaho nigrihitani sarvashaha indriyani indriyartebhyas tasya prajna pratishtita. Somebody read the translation.
O mighty armed one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence.
Wonderful. So tasmad yasya mahabaho. Mahabaho, O Arjuna, who you are so powerful, you are able to exhibit that strength that you have. Also use that internally, to use that strength to curb your senses, to be detached from the sense objects. So that's why Krishna is using Mahabaho here. Tasmad yasya Mahabaho. Nigrihitani sarvasham. From all sides, from all around, you have to curb down your senses. Indriyani indriyartebhyas. This also has come before. In the contact of the senses with the sense objects, indriyani indriyartebhyas, the sense objects, when they come in contact with the indriyani, with the senses, tasya prajna pratishtita. Such a person is well situated in intelligence. So while walking, remember Krishna is giving answer of the last question, how does he walk? Rajeta Kim. So while engaging himself in this world, he comes across these sense objects. What is the way to have that steady intelligence? By curbing your senses from all sides. I want this. I've seen a new thing now I want that. So curb that. Stop thinking about it. Although people will show you, look, this new thing has come in the market. Why don't you also try it, buy it? We see it, but don't think about it so much, because contemplating on it will develop the desire. So moving away every time is not possible, but move away internally. Don't get attached. So somebody can read this quickly.
If needs becomes greeds and one habituates oneself to sense gratification, then the spiritual propensity becomes covered and it is catastrophic for the soul.
So,
Can you read the last part? Ye kecha atma hano janaha, killer of the soul, not.
It's not literal. The spiritual propensity is not if it is killed. This is from the Ishopanishad, where it is said that when we engage too much in sense objects around us, there is the propensity for spiritual life is killed. So again, it is not the soul is killed. It is not, doesn't mean literally. It means the propensity of spirituality is killed. So controlling the senses enables us to become not the killer of the soul, but the deliverer of the soul. Ultimately, Krishna delivers, but we have to call out to him. We have to accept his mercy, right? By calling out to him. Then the soul is delivered. And this is in the purport. You can read it later. We just discussed everything. Another beautiful metaphor Krishna is bringing here, like an example, Ya nisha sarva bhutanam tasyam jagrati samyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sa nisha pashyato muneh. What is night for all living beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled. And the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. It is also literal because we know people who are trying to be spiritually elevated, they get up early in the morning around 4:30, like 1.5 hours before the sunrise in the Brahma Muhurat. That is the time of their awakening. So this is for the self-controlled. But that time is night for the people who are materialistic. In fact, they sleep at that time after partying all night. So it is totally opposite. So difference in values is what Krishna is talking about of the materialist and the spiritualist. So intelligence in material activities is that there for the material people, and intelligence in the Atma or the introspective person. So asleep to self-realization also, but the Sthita Prajna Purush is awake to self-realization. Pleasure in materialistic activities for the materialist makes him experience happiness, lamentation, bewilderment, but the self-realized person feels transcendental pleasure in spiritual culture. You will not see in a pure devotee a lot of elation and a lot of depression. He's mostly equipoised, feels sometimes happy and sometimes distressed, but self-realized person is indifferent to material happiness and distress. Yes, there is joy and there is elation, and there is also sadness when a devotee feels Vipralamba Bhav, right? When he feels that there is distance between him and his worshipable Lord. So that there are those feelings, but they are spiritual. And even if there's sadness and spiritual feeling, that only brings about happiness within, because even in the separation, there is a union. We're thinking of Krishna all the time, Radharani and Krishna. So there is union in our thinking. That's why there is pleasure in that separation also. Asleep in early morning hours, while the self-realized person is awake in early morning hours. So again, the difference between Hanumanji and Ravana and all of these things, we can relate to both of them. All right, and this is the purport. You can read later what we just discussed. 2.70. I'm going to recite the verse first. And again, another example from nature Krishna is bringing. Apuryamanam machala pratishtam samudram apa pravishanti yatvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sashantim apnoti na kama kami. If somebody who has not read yet can unmute and read the translation, please.
A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desire that enters like river in the ocean, which is ever being filled, but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desire.
Perfect. Thank you, Prabhu. So, apuryamanam achala pratishtam. The ocean is always still, although it is being filled with many rivers that enter it. Samudra is ocean, and it is achala pratishtam. It doesn't get disturbed. Apa pravishanti yatvat. When water enters into it, it doesn't cross its boundaries. Tatvat kamayam pravishanti sarve. Sa shantim apnoti nakama kami. Similarly, the sthita prajna remains peaceful and undisturbed by the incessant flow of desires, but one who strives to satisfy such desires is not peaceful. Na kama kami. Kama kami is a beautiful combination of words where Krishna is saying kama is desire, and kami is the one who desires those desires. So person who desires, who's the desirer of desires, is na shantim. For him, there is no shanti. So let's look at this. The ocean, since it's so vast and so full, stays unagitated even when rivers flow in. You see, even if there's so many rivers flowing in, right? There's so much rain because of which all the rivers are flowing into, although that rain is also falling in the ocean. So there's water all around, right? And coming in also in such great degrees. Still, the ocean is still because it's so full and it's so vast. But if you imagine like a small pond or a puddle or even a lake, when there is so much water, if you put in so much water in vast quantities, what will happen? It is going to overflow. There is going to be devastation even around the lake. If there are houses and there's so much water that comes in, all those will be destroyed. So similarly, when our consciousness is full, we have bigger purpose to life. Then the desires that come into our consciousness will not distract us. When higher purpose enriches us, then lower desires won't trouble us. And this is an example. For example, a student is studying. There is an exam the very next day, and he's studying. A friend comes and says, a new movie has come. Let's go watch it. What will the student say? If he's focused, if he has a higher purpose, the student will say, no, not today. Even if that pleasure, that movie, watching it seems very pleasurable, still the student will avoid. Because of what? Because there is a higher purpose. There's a sense of purpose. One is able to focus and one is able to say no to lower things, even if they seem pleasurable. So similarly, when our consciousness is filled with the defining purpose of wanting to serve and please Krishna, then our consciousness becomes strong and truly fulfilled. Krishna is bringing what happens in this world when we come across sense objects. He's also giving solutions how we can stay focused, how he 2.61, Krishna for the first time brings himself as the focus of meditation. Has anybody tried to memorize that verse? 2.61. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matparaha. Keep me the focus of your meditation. And that will help us curb all these sense objects around us. So this is how, somebody can read this from the screen.
This is how one can attain peace by managing one's desires, by fulfilling oneself like an ocean. Fixing his consciousness upon me.
So see how the ocean, people love to go sit on the ocean side so much because just seeing the ocean brings so much peace, right? It's calm and it's peaceful when there is no, high tides. But Krishna is bringing these metaphors and examples from nature. Why? Because we can relate to them the most. Anybody in this world, they are in this world, they are in this nature, so they can relate to these beautiful analogies and examples. Let's keep going. 2 more verses and we'll finish today's class. We also have a wonderful activity today, so don't go anywhere. 2.71. Vihaya kamanya sarvan Pumams charati nispriha nirmamo nirahankara sashantim adhikachati. Somebody can read.
A person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who is free from desires, who has given all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. Well, very, very, very difficult, Mataji.
Nispriha. So Krishna has used these 3 words. Nispriha, which is desireless. Nirmamo, without a sense of proprietorship. Nirahankara, without false ego. It's really, really difficult. Yes, Vishal Prabhu. But Krishna is giving us solutions how to do it with the help of other devotees. We come in association, we go serve with help of other devotees, seeing them, our Guru Janas, our seniors, seeing how they are able to do it. We also get the inspiration and we also get the strength to do it. So nispriha, without any desires, it's impossible, right? We are in this world, we are in this body, there are going to be desires, but we can purify and we can make our desires in a way, we can create desires to please Krishna rather to please ourselves. This is the way to purify our desires. Some people like to dress themselves so nicely. So Prabhupada used to say, start dressing deities and you will purify that desire of getting dressed when you want to not please yourself and your senses, but please Krishna's senses. Nirmamo, without a sense of proprietorship. That this is not mine, it is Krishna's. Nir ahankara, without false ego. False ego is, this is, again, it comes from, I have done this. Whatever happens in this world, we achieve something because of Krishna's mercy, not because of me. So all these help us. So somebody can read this quickly.
Krishna is telling Arjuna, peace is more an inner state than an outer state. By simply avoiding war, you won't become peaceful. Relocation is not a solution in itself. Renunciation. By cultivating a healthy emotional distance from things that are not all that important. So we may focus on what is actually
consequential. Wonderful. So some people feel, I am in this situation, I am in this place, and all these problems are there. I'm really getting disturbed. I want some peace. So if we think like this, let me relocate to another place. That in itself is not the solution for bringing peace. What we have to change is our consciousness. We have to maintain a distance from what is not so important and focus on what is actually important. And what is important is our connection with Krishna. So do your duty in a detached way. What is creating agitation is not duty, but duality due to attachments. So give up that attachment and you'll be peaceful even amidst duties that may otherwise seem agitating. It's the purport, last verse. I'm going to recite it. Esha brahmi sthiti partha nainam prapya vimuhyati sthit vasyam antakalepi brahma nirvanam richati. That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. So Brahmi Sthiti is a spiritual state of consciousness where there is liberation from material bondage. And Sthit Vasyam Antakalepi, having spiritual stimuli even at the time of death. It is said that when a person is dying, whatever has happened in his life, it spins around, in his consciousness. He can only think of all those things which have, in a fast forward motion, everything he's done in his life. So at the time of death, how can one be? This first time Krishna is bringing the concept of death, and how at that time one can be, equipoised, one can be in that state of Brahmi Sthiti. Then one attains what? Brahma Nirvanam. Nirvanam is more like, a Buddhist term, but what it really means is not like nothingness. One's consciousness is merged into nothingness. Nirvana means elevation of existence to a higher level, which is the Brahman level. So Brahmi Sthiti will lead to Brahma Nirvanam. What is Brahmi Sthiti again? It is a spiritual state of consciousness where we are thinking of and we are connected with Krishna all the time. Here you see, throughout his life, Haridas Thakur, he was the Namacharya, always chanting Krishna's names. At the time of death, he attained Brahma Nirvanam, elevation of existence to a higher level. See, this is second chapter. Krishna has introduced himself very briefly, but he hasn't spoken about going to Golok Vrindavan. He's talking about a higher state, a higher spiritual state. So here he speaks about Brahma Nirvanam. Prabhupada translates it as entering into kingdom of God, which is the right thing, because that is the ultimate meaning of what Krishna is saying over here. So how can one reach to the stage of Brahma Nirvanam, entering into the kingdom of God by staying throughout his life, by having that Brahmi Sthiti, equipoised, free from attachments. So Brahmi Sthiti will lead to Brahma Nirvanam. And both can be achieved for one who lives in the mood of detachment, no matter to matter and attachment to Krishna. Prabhupada says there's no difference between the kingdom of God and devotional service of the Lord, because as devotees, we are doing devotional service day to day, even simple thing as cooking for the deities at home, for pictures if we have, that is devotional service. So we are living Brahmi Sthiti, not for my pleasure, pleasure for Krishna. Since both of them are on the absolute plane, what are the both things? Devotional service and reaching kingdom of God. They both are on absolute plane. To be engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord is to have attained the spiritual kingdom. Prabhupada used to say it's just a matter of time. Devotees here living in this world surrounded with sense objects are also in the spiritual world. It is just a matter of time that is separating them from reaching Golok Vrindavan. So theme of chapter 2, work externally like other people, but internally renounce and be detached, attach ourselves to Krishna, and then externally do not renounce work. So keep doing your work, but internally be renounced. So Krishna answers, Vrajeta Kim, the self-realized person is free from all attachment and aversion. He, while engaging his senses, he controls them through regulative principles of freedom. Thus, he obtains the complete mercy of the Lord. And we have a quick activity. We're going to do the breakout rooms again. If you're in pairs, I'll put you in, you can be with your husband or wife or whoever you're with right now. And we're going to talk to each other. We're going to think of any one of our material desires or attachments, if we have. Share it with the partner, and the partner thinks about ways to help you by avoiding and enduring the boat example that you saw in the verse, right? So avoiding those situations where there can be stimuli to sense objects, and if it is unavoidable, then how to endure. So your partner will help you. And is there anything we can do, something we can do to spiritualize those desires? So let me now quickly do the breakout rooms.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, I have throat infection, so I won't be able to.
Okay, no problem. No problem. I won't put you then. Mohan Prabhu, Deepa ji is there with you, right? Sorry, Pooja ji is there with you, right?
Dimpy, no, she's not available.
She's not there?
She's, I'll call her just to see if she can come now. Let me check.
Okay, so should I put you with somebody else or no?
Yeah, that's okay. She will come.
She'll come? Okay.
Mataji, can I discuss with you?
With me?
Can we pair up? Yeah.
I have put you with Achyuta Keshav Prabhu.
Okay, no problem. But I'll discuss with you.
Okay, we can also discuss later. Sure. Okay, you can join on the screen.